Have you ever glanced at a cricket broadcast or opened a sports app and just felt utterly overwhelmed by the sheer volume of numbers, letters, and strange symbols everywhere? Well, if so, you are absolutely in the right place. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to decode the beautiful hidden language of cricket statistics and demystify the whole shebang.
To the uninitiated, sure, it looks like an impenetrable wall of numbers, but to the trained eye, it's a gripping pocket novella full of tension and drama. The legendary BBC statistician Bill Frindall hit the nail on the head when he called the scorecard the game's autobiography, written one ball at a time. It's not just a dry ledger. Every single mark carries the cadence of a ball bowled, a heroic stand, or a devastating collapse. So the million-dollar question, how do we transform this raw, chaotic data into the actual story of a match? How do we read between the lines to figure out who's actually dominating, who's buckling under the pressure, and what wild strategies the teams are deploying? Well, it all comes down to understanding the foundational language that scorers have perfected over centuries. Let's take a quick look at how scorecards actually evolved. It started with simple notches on a stick back in 1744. Those early records just tallied runs, without even mentioning how a batter got out. But by the 1790s, a guy named Samuel Britcher was printing penny pamphlets at Lord's with much more formal lists. Then, as the Victorian era rolled in around the 1840s, analytical thinking totally took over. Scorecards began capturing balls faced, detailed bowling analyses, and those absolutely crucial extras. Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the anatomy of a scorecard, decode all those weird symbols, analyze the match data, track the fall of wickets, and finally help you avoid some common beginner pitfalls. Let's jump right in. Starting off with part 1, the anatomy of a scorecard, and the overarching philosophy of how it all works. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of individual player stats, we have to understand the macro concepts holding the entire game together. Every scorecard is built on 3 main pillars: runs, wickets, and overs. Think of runs as the currency, right? It's the primary metric for winning. Wickets, on the other hand, are a strict resource constraint. You only have 10 per innings, and once 10 batters are dismissed, your turn is over, no matter how much time is left. Finally, we have overs, which consist of 6 legal deliveries by a single bowler. This is the temporal unit. Basically, time in cricket is measured in overs. Now, in action, the manual scoring process is pretty intense. It involves meticulously tallying runs, marking dots for no runs, and constantly crossing off the team total. Scorers are essentially tracking every single delivery in a massive book. A dot literally means a dot ball, 0 runs scored. Numbers mean the batter successfully ran between the wickets. This rigorous entry system ensures that at any given second, the runs, wickets, and overs perfectly balance out like a giant mathematical puzzle. When we look at a batting summary, we see exactly how each player performed, how fast they scored, and their specific role in the lineup. You'll often spot an asterisk next to a name, which denotes the team captain, and a little dagger symbol pointing out the wicketkeeper. Then we have the absolute essential metrics, the total runs they scored off their own bat, the balls they faced, and their strike rate, which tells us their scoring speed. But honestly, the most dramatic column is how out. Under that how out column, you'll encounter a bunch of common abbreviations telling you the exact method of a batter's demise. A simple B means they were bowled directly. A C means they were caught, and this is usually followed by the name of the fielder who caught it, and then the bowler who gets the credit. LBW stands for leg before wicket, which is a highly technical dismissal where the batter's leg blocks a ball destined to hit the stumps. And ST means stumped, usually pulled off by the wicketkeeper when the batter steps out of their safety crease. Moving on to part 2, decoding the symbols, or as I like to call them, the hieroglyphs of extras. So extras are free runs awarded to the batting team that are not credited to any individual batter. Because scorers have to write at lightning speed, they've developed a standardized set of geometric hieroglyphs to track these specific errors. A wide delivery is marked with a cross, mimicking the umpire's outstretched arms, meaning the bowler sent the ball too far out of reach for the batter to reasonably hit. An illegal no ball, however, is represented by a circle. This usually happens when the bowler oversteps the crease line. In both cases, the batting team gets a penalty run and the bowler has to re-bowl that delivery. The secret code continues with an upward triangle for byes. This is where the ball misses the bat and the batter completely, but they still manage to run. A downward triangle is used for leg byes, where the ball deflects off the batter's body or pads and they run. Now, these aren't held against the bowler's individual stats, but they absolutely add to the team's total score.
And when the umpire raises that iconic index finger, a wicket is officially taken, shifting our focus to the bowlers who earned it. That raised finger is the universal cricket symbol for a dismissal. Once it goes up, the scorer slashes a diagonal line across the batter's record and immediately updates the bowling analysis.
Which brings us to part 3, analyzing the match data and diving into the bowling summary. While batting is all about accumulation and aggression, bowling stats tell a totally different story, one of restriction, efficiency, and intense pressure. Taking a look at a real-world example, you can spot the critical columns: overs bowled, maidens, which are overs where no runs were conceded, runs leaked, wickets taken, and economy. Take Glenn McGrath, for example. He bowled his maximum 10 overs. He had 1 maiden, meaning a full over of 6 balls where the batters couldn't score a single run off him. He gave up 42 runs and took 1 wicket. A summary like this instantly tells you who is keeping things tight and who is getting hit out of the park. The really crucial point here is the economy rate, like Glenn McGrath's excellent 4.20. This calculates exactly how many runs a bowler allows per over. You get this simply by dividing the runs conceded by the overs bowled. In a one-day match, an economy rate hovering around 4 is incredibly restrictive. It puts massive pressure on the batters, often forcing them to take crazy risks against the other bowlers.
All right, part 4, the fall of wickets and reading the true story of the game. This is where the scorecard truly becomes a time machine. The fall of wickets section is essentially a chronological timeline of the game's biggest momentum shifts. By reading the sequence of scores at which dismissals happen, you can instantly spot a disastrous batting collapse or a massive match-winning partnership. For example, if you see the first wicket fell at 150 runs, you know the opening batters totally dominated. But if the record reads 15 for 1, then 18 for 2, then 22 for 3, well, you're looking at a spectacular collapse where the bowling team utterly tore through the top order.
Now for part 5, avoiding beginner pitfalls and common mistakes. Before you start analyzing matches yourself, we really need to address a massive mathematical trap that catches almost every beginner. Cricket math is kind of weird, and if you don't know the secret, you'll be reading the game completely wrong. Because an over consists of exactly 6 balls, the notation 10.3 means 10 overs and 3 balls. It does not mean 10.5 overs. This is where so many new fans get tripped up. 10.5 means 10 overs and 5 balls. The very next legal delivery doesn't make it 10.6. It rolls over to 11.0. Always remember, in cricket, overs count up to 6, not 10. Also, absolutely do not confuse a batter's strike rate with a bowler's economy rate. A batter's strike rate measures their scoring speed per 100 balls faced. So a batter with a strike rate of 150 is scoring very quickly, literally 1.5 runs for every single ball they face. A bowler's economy, as we mentioned, is runs per over. Mixing these two metrics up will completely skew your understanding of who is actually performing well. Finally, part 6, beyond the numbers, because context is everything. Numbers don't exist in a vacuum, right? To truly read a scorecard like a pro, you have to factor in the invisible elements of the match. While scorecards are brilliant analytical tools, they simply can't show you a wet outfield, degrading pitch conditions, or the pure, suffocating psychological pressure of a final over. So always combine the data with actually watching the game. A score of 120 might look absolutely terrible on paper, but if the pitch was cracking and the ball was spinning wildly, that 120 might actually be a heroic match-winning total. The scorecard is the skeletal structure. The context is the flesh and blood of the sport. We really hope this explainer has empowered you to read the game like a total pro. But it does leave us with one fascinating question. As algorithms and AI continue to evolve, will the scorecard of the future be able to predict the drama before it even happens? Or will the human element of cricket always remain unquantifiable? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us which historical match you plan to decode next. See you next time!